I began to realise that I'd pretty much always been involved with a magical process, in as much as it seemed to me blindingly obvious that creativity itself is a magical process. It's taking something out of nothing. It's taking a rabbit out of an empty hat. It's taking an idea out of an empty mind. And then you work at it for long enough, and eventually you'll have something solid that you can hold in your hands, a book, a record, whatever. And I think that realisation incredibly enriched my sense of what an artist or a writer was. Not just me, but potentially everybody. I think that if people understood their art, their craft, as a magical process, I think that they would probably have a really surprisingly strong source of energy and inspiration open to them. It's a funny thing, but as creators, we have a sense that we are at best entertainers. We think that we're lucky if we have a job, whereas in fact we were once regarded as beings of incredible power, because not everybody could use their imagination. And the ones who could were seen in the bardic tradition of magic as being powerful sorcerers. This was purely because of the way that they moved words around and the way that they used words to put ideas into people's heads. And I can't help thinking that if people understood that art was magic and that magic was art, then I think that the current occult scene, such as it is, which is, to my mind, fairly moribund, would suddenly have a purpose. It would be able to produce works of art that would be an indication of the magical territories that it claims to have visited. I mean, one of my favourite artist-magicians is Austin Osman Spare, who was a Brixton visionary who did fabulous automatic drawings that are, as near as damn it, the closest that you're going to get to somebody entering one of these magical spaces and taking a photograph. Now, that isn't actually possible, but if you've got a wonderful artist who can see these things inside their minds, inside the magical space of their imagination, and can then put them down on paper for the rest of us to see, then that is a wonderful combination. And I think that if all of occult society were to actually take that on board, to decide that their output from now on would be seen as magical, yes, but magical in terms of it being artistic, I think that would be of huge benefit to occult society such as it is. I also think it would be of immense benefit to contemporary art, which, again, to my mind, seems largely, I'm speaking here about contemporary British art, or at least some of the most visible exponents of it, but it seems to be largely vacuous and pointless. It's conceptual art, but not in any important sense. They're not even properly concepts. They're kind of advertising ideas. They're the kind of things whereby, yes, it's conceptual art. It's like a kind of a joke. And once you've got the joke, there is no point in ever looking at that piece of work ever again. Which is not what art is for, really. Art is meant to endure. So the contemporary art scene, at least here in England, seems to me to be fairly bankrupt. If these creators weren't thinking about the immense sums of money that they were likely to get from their unmade beds or pickled sharks, then they might be instead connecting with something which is much stronger, much purer, much truer, which is the spiritual essence, if you like, of magic, which has run through so much of the art field that the two seem to go together hand in hand. I mean, all of the surrealists were obsessed with magic and alchemy, and were taking a lot of their images from those sources. Even artists like Mondrian was a theosophist, that all of those rectangles were based upon theosophical concepts. People like Picasso, surprisingly modern artists, as well as people like William Blake and the more obviously occult-directed artists of the past. So, in a sense, art and magic have always gone hand in hand. And I think that if people understood that, it could really enrich our culture. Not only our occult culture, but our traditional art scene. It would give people's work some soul in a very real sense. And I think that could only be a good thing.